evening and welcome to the Thai PBS World Tonight. Right now, tension between China and Australia seems increasing in relations to COVID-19. In a rare step, China authority has issued a warning toward Chinese students, cautioning them about the risk of coming to Australia. But what is really happening in Australia, and especially how has Australia handled COVID-19 so far? In the Thai PBS World Tonight, Khun Thep Chai Yong and me talk to Australian ambassador to Thailand. And with the move by China to warn against Chinese students to come to Australia because they may face racial discrimination, what do you like to elaborate more on this?
Well, that frankly is a very perplexing warning. I think that the warning is nonsense. Surveys of foreign students in Australia show that more than 95% feel very safe and very comfortable there. They're a very big part, a very important part of our community, the foreign students. One has to remember as well that in a population of about 25 million overall, we have about 1.5 million people of Chinese birth or civilisational background, dating well back to the gold rushes in the 1850s in Victoria. So an entrenched part, a valuable part of Australian society. The Chinese government's warning, you would have to ask them why they made that warning. There's no real evidence of any upsurge against students.
But could the warning be seen as a retaliation to Australia taking a leading role in demanding an international inquiry into the origins of the pandemic, as we know, originated in Wuhan of China?
You're more Machiavellian than I am, but I think obviously there was maybe some discordance with China at the start there. But remember, we had a record number of countries, 145, who were co-sponsors of the resolution in the World Health Assembly, and that included Thailand. We're very grateful for that, and that included China. So what we're saying is that if this pandemic has been as bad as it has been, more than 300,000 people dead, very many millions of people have had their lives disrupted. I mean, I don't have to tell Thailand about the economic disruption. Then for sure we all know we are in this together. So if one country has a problem with an epidemic that can become a pandemic, then we all need to be able to act early. We need to be able to stop them from happening, to mitigate the effects and to control them. So I think it would be odd if we said, well, we don't need some sort of an independent, exhaustive inquiry into what happened and how we dealt with it. So let's see how that works through. But the Chinese Premier has welcomed it, and so hopefully we'll all be on the right track from now.
And during COVID-19 situation in Thailand, you must be quite busy in terms of handling the situation and trying to send Australians back home. But you were facing difficulty on that because of inbound flight ban from Australia.
It's been a great experience. Look, the first thing to say is that our relationship with Thailand is so good that very readily we worked out ways of cooperating. I've been dealing with Khun Busadi, your ambassador in Canberra, who's a tremendous colleague. I knew her previously, with Thai Airways and of course with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We've sent back about 4 flights. We've got another one on next Wednesday. Probably about 1,000 Thai students have come back and 1,000 Australians. That's been very much a joint effort. We've both put the loads so that the plane's full, or at least got some people on it going both ways. We've had to work through air traffic control issues, quarantine issues. You're right to mention that quarantine was a big issue because early on one of the big constraints was a maximum of 200 people coming into Thai quarantine each day. And that was up until a few weeks ago. So that was a big bottleneck, but just now they've boosted it to 500. And the other day, the Ministry of Health and the Defence Department announced that they now had taken on an additional 9,000 hotel rooms. So that little aperture has become a big pipe, and we're getting a lot of people back. If you think about the starting point for this, there were so many Thai people overseas working, studying, living, that there was a very big influx coming back. So that was a big problem for us early on. I think we're getting towards the end of it. I hope that this flight that we send next Wednesday, we can finish that and get out of the travel agent business, but maybe I'm wrong.
Australia has been cited as a success story in dealing with the pandemic. I mean, you had a peak of 400 cases a day, many weeks back. And for the past few days, you have had no single locally transmitted cases in Australia. So tell us how you did it. How did you manage to contain the spreading of the virus so effectively?
We used Thailand's playbook. So what we did was, I think a very key thing was external controls. We very quickly turned off any ability for people to come back into Australia, apart from our own citizens, of course. We never did that. But we also said our citizens couldn't travel. They had to get permission to go out. So we had it both ways. And that's very similar to what Thailand did, although Thailand didn't stop its own citizens travelling. And then we had bans on mass assemblies, even down to prescribing how many people could go to a wedding, how many people could go to a birthday party. I don't recall the exact figures. It was like 5 for a funeral, 10 for a wedding. So figures were prescribed, and these were policed quite strongly. So with all of those measures in place, and with quite a strong health system and public health policy apparatus there, we were able to get people's understanding and a large degree of compliance with the measures that were put in place. But it's very much like exactly what Thailand did, and we look at what Thailand did and we think it's very impressive.
Can you say that Australia is now out of the woods?
I don't think any of us can say that, and that's a really important thing for us all. We're not out of the woods, and neither is Thailand, because we don't know. We're all learning with this. We don't know what the second wave could look like. What I see as I go around Bangkok is I see now a lot more people not wearing a mask, and they're more relaxed. In a way, this is a wonderful thing. I've even welcomed having some traffic on Tanon Witayu, because it shows things are coming back to normal.
You missed that.
Well, we desperately need things to go back to normal for ordinary Thai people, for the economy in Thailand. So I think this is one of the things that, because the Thai government has done so well and been so effective in controlling, they now have the luxury of thinking, how do we open up? How do we take a measured approach to removing the virus constraints and to opening up our country? I don't know exactly which way they'll go. As I say, we've been pressuring them to take on board some of those compassionate cases of Australians who would normally live in Thailand. We also want to make sure that, as Thailand thinks about maybe its version of a travel bubble or travel relationship with other countries, that they don't forget us. But none of us are rushing into that. We thought about it and have talked about it with New Zealand, but even a country as close to us as New Zealand, which has no virus cases now, we still think it's probably some time before we can put the processes and the measures in place to be able to say, okay, we've got a bubble. So there's a way to go, but in Thailand I see success has given Thailand options of what it wants to do. It's been, as I say, pretty impressive.
That's the view from Australian ambassador to Thailand on how Thailand and Australia handle COVID-19.